Justin? All right, welcome, good afternoon. Welcome to this Fusion 360 class, any CAD class. We're pretty happy and excited to present this brand new tech to you. You heard about this morning. Our senior VP, Amy Bunzel, unveiled this tech. And so let me get to the introduction slide.
Do you have the clicker?
Oh yeah, I have the clicker. So my name, oops, it's going in the reverse direction. All right, my name is Shurang Moge. I'm the software architect on this project. We started this project about 6 months ago. We had a pretty diverse team across different continents and pretty happy to release this tech to all of you. And let me hand it over to my friend, our product manager. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Bankim Charigankar. I'm one of the product managers for Fusion 360. I've been working on AnyCAD with Shurang, and more than just our Fusion team, it's been a joint effort with Inventor, our data management team, with Desktop Connector, a lot of our backend services, including ATF translators, etc. So we're very excited to show this today.
I'm Bryce. I'm technical marketing manager. I make all the videos and demos and images on the website. I hear my voice all over. But we got these smart guys in the room.
So that's why the demo is going to be great. All right. So just standard, you've been to AU before, you've been to a lot of classes, you know the standard statement for Safe Harbor. We'll show you some future-looking stuff today, some stuff that's ready, some stuff that's coming really soon, some stuff that is coming a little bit later. But we'll show you everything. Just know that not all of it, everything we're showing right now is live in the product today. So let's start with the problem, right? This was covered a little bit in both keynotes, but really there's a real disconnect when you go from various different tools that are used to do end-to-end design to manufacturing of any product development cycle. And every time you cross a boundary between products and between data formats, you always have some sort of lossy change between the two. Sometimes the loss is in the fidelity in the translation itself. Sometimes it is you start out with data from one system, you go to another system, you set up some things like maybe it's your manufacturing CAM setup, maybe it's your simulation, but then the original data changes, right? Because the only thing certain in life are death, taxes, and changes, right? So when the data changes, everything that you did in your next step of your process has to be redone typically. So what we wanted to look at today is how we can actually automate away some of that extra work so that everything just works seamlessly end to end. So we want to tell this through the story of FutureBot. So a real example really helps shine light on what the actual workflow is. So let's start out with FutureBot. Let's say we have Mr. Bryce here, really bright scientist. He's ready to start working on a project. He is a company of one, like what you see a lot of today. He's a contractor. He works with a couple of other contractors, and he has a new contract to work on a gripper design for a CubeSat. And he is going to be the one person working in Fusion 360 to actually bring everything together. So the other people that he's working with, Shurang and I will be playing those parts. And Shurang is going to be our designer who's working in Inventor. He's working on some of the frame of the CubeSat itself. I am the other contractor. I'm working in Solidworks. I'm working on the plates that go to form the layers inside. So what we want to see today is how do we actually work through all of these systems while keeping all of your data in sync, right? So that is what the real crux of any CAD is. How do we go about getting data from all these different CAD systems? We're talking about Inventor and SolidWorks right now, to bring it into Fusion so that you can do all of your workflows like actually assembling it together, doing the validation of it using simulation, manufacturing using some of the CAM tools, or review it to do markup and collaboration using our extended web platform. Right, but that's not all, right? So because Inventor and Fusion, they're both part of the industry design collection, they both work really well together. So even though in this class we're focusing a lot on Fusion reusing data from Inventor and Solidworks associatively, there's another class tomorrow at 8 in the morning, and that one focuses more on the interop between Inventor reading in Fusion data associatively and Fusion obviously reading in Inventor data again. So highly recommend checking out this class too. So let's get started with just the setup, right? What do you need to do to get started using any CAD today? So one of the key parts of this is using Fusion Team. Right, Fusion Team is our web platform. That's the web backend for Fusion. It has a couple of versions. There's a personal version that is set up by everybody by default. So when you create projects, you invite people. You're set doing that in Fusion Team Personal today. But there is a Fusion Team proper group environment, and that's what you need to use any CAD. Some of the key benefits for starting to use Team is that it allows you to have central company ownership of data. So that, a lot of times you know what happens. 3 people get together, you start working on something, 6 months later, one of you leaves, right? But if the projects had been started in their personal environment or their personal space, the data technically goes with them because they own that account or that data. With a team environment, you can have multiple administrators, so really the data is owned by that organization rather than an individual. Right. A couple of other really nice things about Team, you have role-based security. So I might be an editor, I have full access to the data. I might invite Michael here into the project with read-only access so that he could only do design markups or review data, but not be able to edit, delete, or actually export things from the project and so on. And the third key one that I wanted to touch on is you have the ability to do cross-project references, right? So if you wanted to set up a library, bring in a set of parts that are commonly reused in your designs, you could put those in a project, set up the right permissions on it, and then everybody else in your environment only reuses that data rather than having to either recreate it or go hunt for it on McMaster-Carr, et cetera, and re-download it every time you want to use that data. Right, so one of the things, so we saw the safe harbor statement earlier, so one of the things that's coming in an update, the next update of Fusion 360 is the ability to set up Fusion Team right from within the Fusion client, right? So right where you see Switch Hubs today, there's an access point to create Fusion Team. It pops you out to a website that tells you all the benefits of Fusion Team that I just recapped. And then one click and it sets up a team for that account. Now you have the ability to add more administrators and have them all come in and start working in this environment. All right. So what happens next is if I set up my team, now I invite my other collaborators. If they happen to be Fusion collaborators, next time they start Fusion, they get a nice welcome experience that tells them you've been added to a new team, shows them how to access it. But in the scenario we're talking about today, our 2 other contractors happen to be Solidworks and Inventor users, right? So in that case, they get an email, and the email tells them the details about you've been invited to a hub. You can click on Join Team, and that brings you into this ecosystem. So let's say I'm the Inventor user here, and I click on Join Hub. I come into the web interface, I sign in, I'm a member here. The key new piece you see here is Desktop Connector for Fusion. So this is one of the pieces of functionality that Michael, one of our data management team, has been building with us. So the Desktop Connector is a really cool piece of technology that allows you to create virtual drives in your Windows Explorer or your Mac Finder that shows you exactly all the data that you have in cloud. This is how you can connect any desktop product today to the cloud and bring in your data seamlessly. So as an example, you see here, in Fusion Team, in a project, you see all of this data. In Windows Explorer, you see exactly the same stuff. So when you go File Open, File Save from any desktop product, Inventor, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, it all just saves seamlessly into the cloud, ready to be consumed by cloud products like Fusion. So right. With that setup, let's jump into and actually look at this workflow.
Right.
All right, if you guys recall, I have a company called FutureBot. These are my contractors. One's using SolidWorks, one's using Inventor. I'd highly recommend investing in my company. We're going IPO next week. That will probably be closing the week after. First off, we're going to start off in team hubs. So right now we have 3 different teams. I've labeled them so you can see the Solidworks icon and the Inventor icon as well. So the Inventor is a safe place where I've only invited Sharang, my Inventor contractor. My Solidworks contractor doesn't get access to that data. This is just some of the security things we can do. And we're going to show you some of the stuff with what we call cross-project references. So you can insert a file from another project, and it'll keep that reference. This is also something we've been working on this year. So let's go ahead and jump into Fusion. With that Inventor part, Sharang has finished. We can go ahead and insert it into my Fusion assembly. And this is actually in a different project, so I can just right-click, just as you're used to, insert it into my Fusion assembly. And you might notice that that is the Inventor part. It's just an IPT file that was uploaded using Drive, I assume. And it comes right in. No translation there. So you hit OK, and now we could use this data for other things, what we could do in Fusion. So in this case, I want to customize my jaw. It looks like we have a little bit of interference, so let's check. We could just use our inspect tools, interference check, select these 3 components, compute, and of course it has an interference. So let's just go ahead and fix that so that jaw just fits perfectly to that strut right there. So I'm just going to use my combine Boolean cut operations. Let's do it on one gripper and do it on the next. That was too easy. And now you'll see my gripper fit right there.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought so too. But Fusion 360 isn't just about design. It's about other things, about the entire product innovation platform. So we could extend not just into design. We could go to rendering, simulation, animation, CAM, drawings. In this case, I'm going to jump into the simulation workspace. And we're going to see if this design actually can survive real-world loads. And one of the cool things about Fusion simulation platform that's probably unique to it is the cloud solve. Here we could come and set it up real quickly. So I'm just going to say that it's attached at these legs when it picks up this CubeSat. And that's about it, all I need to do. Of course, I made it really simple. But the cool thing about the cloud solve as well is I could solve numerous studies at the same time. Most desktop simulation tools, you hit run and you go get a coffee break or call it a night. In my case, I would have just called it a night, given up, even if it was 10 in the morning. So we could go ahead and solve that, sends those to the cloud. For an interest of time, I've already solved the study, so let me open that guy up real quick. And there we go. So in this simulation that went off to the cloud, that one's going to take a couple seconds. I'm going to blame the Wi-Fi, of course. But if you see, our goal for this design was to meet a minimum factor safety of 3. We got like 2.6, so we probably need a design change. We could do some cool animations. Let's see if the results. Let's switch the plot. See some nice little stress plot going there. So we probably need to make a change to that. So one of the cool things about now desktop products are connected to the cloud via Desktop Connect is they can leverage other things through what we call Fusion Team. So I can go open this design on the web, and this is just a web browser, nothing fancy that I'm doing here, but I could actually view that file within a browser. I don't have to have anything installed for this, and we can collaborate, redline, markup, comment, and produce an auditable trail of when and why design decisions were made in the process. So take it a couple seconds. And there we go. So we could view this in the web. We could do some measure exploding markups. I'm just going to tell Sharang his idea was not so great. He's trying to already take down my company. Let's go right there. Replace this with a octagonal version. That is larger. Woo. And I didn't even misspell anything. That's pretty good, guys. Oh, well. There we go. I'm not sure what was going on there. And we save this. I could even do some funny things where I could say, like, @Sharang, call him out. He'll get notifications. So and he'll get notified to change that file.
All right.
So let's switch it.
Let's just see. Boss said it sucked.
Yeah.
Right.
I was being nice.
Let's see what happened here.
Time just accelerated, was an hour ago. Just that fast.
All right. Let me see. Here's a node inside LMV. This is the one that Bryce put in. Boss looks like, what did Boss say? Boss said, replace this with a toggle version that is larger. Okay. Yes, sir. Let's do that. All right.
I did mention
All right.
it.
Okay. So I'm trying
I
to.
might have spelled it wrong, though. I'm terrible at spelling.
So I'm an Inventor guy, so I'm going to open this. So this is how the virtual drive is going to look. So underneath here, I'm going to get a Fusion drive. This is the virtual drive. And we are all collaborating in the future-backed hub. So let me get inside, and I'm in the, see, if you see that, I don't have visibility into the Solidworks project that he set up for the other guy who has the other project. So I'm going to open this one up. If you look at that, now I have access to the cloud data. And so I am going to make a change here so that it just makes stronger. And save this file out back to the cloud. So make the post a little stronger. Let's just save this.
Look at these efficient contractors. Design change in 10 seconds.
He already knew.
Amazing.
He's billing me extra hours, I bet.
All right, so here's this is the drive. You can look at the pending actions, and the drive is taking this file up to the cloud, where my boss, Bryce, wants this to be changed and made stronger. Yes, boss? We're done with that. Let me just see. I just want to make sure that the new version got uploaded. And all right, we are on V2 now. That's pretty cool. Okay. Over to boss.
All right. Well, that was super easy, of course. So I got a notification in the data panel that it was out of date. I hit the refresh button already, sorry. But it tells me exactly when Strong saved it, 19 seconds ago, who saved it. I could see who in the project, if we had multiple contractors, was making changes to and when. If it was maybe a terrible idea, I could promote an old version and be like, don't do that again. But now we, It's fun. Internet, such a wonderful thing. Let me
Open it again?
Yeah, let me reopen that. See, this is my project but neither of them have access to. Just giving you a tour of all the projects here. And there it is. It's out of date now. Whoa, don't want to go that far. So let's go back. So I do get the out of date message now. It is down here. But it's out of date. I could go ahead and choose Get Latest. And what it will do is go check the server to see what the difference is and pull that. Again, we didn't do any translations into Fusion or anything like that. It's going to just download that native Inventor part and make that design change. You'll see the gripper also update.
Cool.
So it's the new octagonal version, so it's not just the Inventor part, but we're also altering Fusion data as well. And of course, if we need to run this simulation again, with the Cloud Solve, I could just jump right back in. Notice the changes. Let me go back to the correct one I already ran. And go back and Cloud Solve that again. And there we go. But since it's Cloud Solve, we could continue designing it. We could jump back into the model environment and still use other things to assemble it. So let's jump back in my project, excuse me, and integrate some of the other components in this CubeSat. We had someone on my team, he's in this room, work on this feverishly for a night and detail all these boards because we now have integration with Eagle, and so we have a tie to go straight from Eagle to Fusion and build the board. So if we rotate this around, he even threw a solar panel in there. But we're not just trying to integrate Inventor and Fusion as well. We're trying to integrate into other CAD tools as well. So we have a SolidWorks contractor as well. So let's jump into the SolidWorks project and insert that. But this time, I'm not going to insert it yet. So last time I just right-clicked that SolidWorks file, or the Inventor file, excuse me, and said insert. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and open this file. It's just like double-clicking on any Fusion native design, but it opens it in Fusion. The one difference here is I get a reference in the timeline, and that reference is basically pointing back to that SolidWorks icon, or the SolidWorks part, excuse me. So now I could continue designing, adding features parametrically. You see down in the timeline, now that I added that sketch, it is parametrically after, just like we're familiar with. Let's go with 56, extrude this hole so it fits right in the thruster. And we'll go ahead and save this as our plate. So this is now a Fusion design that is linked through to that SolidWorks part. Very similar workflow that would also be created for the Inventor part as well. And let's jump back into this and insert the new Fusion design, which is referencing the SolidWorks design, into my assembly. So this is just like inserting parts into assembly. But again, this is in a different project, so it's creating that cross-project reference as well. And we'll say we want that -50, and we'll just make a rigid group. Let's continue. And there we go. Lock those together. And you know what? It's that time again, of course. My contractor needed to change the design a little bit for external reasons. We have a better design that's going to probably make my IPO go a little bit higher. So let's go ahead and Bonkum over here is going to upload a new file.
Absolutely. So I am also using Desktop Connector. So as a contractor working through another CAD system, so I have multiple choices. We showed Desktop Connector earlier. Shurang demonstrated how to use it with Inventor. So I can also use the connector to upload a new version from SolidWorks, or I can, of course, go to the Fusion team web interface, drag and drop the new version of the part that I've just made some changes to, and it'll just show up as a notification for Bryce as well.
Yeah, it's like, pow, it's here now. Super fast. So one component's out of date. I also get the refresh and the data panel. At first, you would have to update the SolidWorks or the Fusion design that's referencing the SolidWorks part, so I could open up that plate and get the same out-of-date reference. But we do have deep update, which is what it's called, but it could go down levels and update. So even though it's, I guess, 2 levels down now, you could still go grab the latest. It'll go grab that new SolidWorks part and translate it. Or not translate it. It will put it into the Fusion part and update my Fusion assembly as well. So, of course, we could save this and send this off. We get these CubeSats made and see what happens. But after this,
go back to your sim.
I think since I closed the file, I didn't save it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, come on there.
All right.
All right, so after that actual demo, so let's look at some of the futures, right? So what we have today in Fusion is the ability to associatively reference Inventor and SolidWorks data completely seamlessly, make as many changes as you want in the original system. Desktop Connector brings the data into cloud, and Fusion can consume it easily. Here's some of the other things that we're working on right now that'll be available soon after this initial revision. So we're adding support for PTC-NX, but it's not just the native formats, right? A lot of data interop in the industry happens with neutral formats. So STEP and IGES files are also really important. So that's the next set of design data that will support with this AnyCAD interop functionality. All of that is still at a part level. And so the next step after that, going into next year, will be around adding support for assemblies. So targeting Inventor and SolidWorks to begin with. And all the same stuff we've looked at, right? Going from bringing all of this data in, assembling it in Fusion, and then being able to go through all the different steps of validation, manufacture, documentation, the review, collaboration, everything just works seamlessly from all of this data, regardless of the source. All right, cool. So in order to, before we get to Q&A, I wanted to recap some of the really cool things we saw, right? So from Fusion, you can create a new Fusion team environment coming at the end of the month. From the Fusion team environment, you get Desktop Connector, which connects all of your desktop products to cloud seamlessly by building an integration straight into the OS, right? Windows Explorer, Mac Finder shows up a new drive that has a virtual structure of all of your data in the cloud so that you can open and edit that data from any of your CAD products. So we bring that into Fusion. We've made our changes where now that we're referencing the data directly, when a change happens in the Inventor data, not only does it ripple through and the model itself changes, all the downstream Fusion designs that you have assembled with it, they all react and it all changes with just one click of a button. And then once you know that you've done some validation in Fusion, you know some of the design requirements weren't met, you can use the collaboration tools to go back and forth, not just with Fusion customers, but even your Inventor and Solidworks users, because Fusion team has all the collaboration tools with notifications that allow you to communicate back to them, have them make changes, have it all come back to the cloud seamlessly, and then you revalidate, make sure it actually meets the design specs that you have. All right. At this point, I'll pause for questions, because there's a lot of new functionality. Yeah?
So I do a lot with the API.
Yeah.
How do these parts, when they're linked in, show up in the Fusion API? And I actually have a second part, but I'll wait till you.
Sure. So it looks like any other. Oh, yeah, so the question was, how do these references, these AnyCAD references come in and look through the API? So they look like any other XREF in Fusion. So if I'm referencing another Fusion part file with an insert, it'll look exactly the same through the API.
One small difference, the insert will show up as insert, the open will show up as derived. It's a derivation that happened.
Okay.
When we did the open workflow, that's a derivation that happens.
Gotcha.
So inserts are expressed just like the inserts, and opens are derivations.
The second part is, do you support exposing custom properties or any of the metadata that would come in with the Solidworks file or the Inventor file?
At the moment, there are no properties coming in.
Okay.
The only thing that's coming in is the PREP IDs, which are like social security numbers of the edges and faces that are coming through.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, sorry, to repeat the question,
Okay.
he was asking, do the file properties
About,
also come in?
Yeah.
And they don't right now, but it is one of the items in the backlog. I mean, especially when you're building things like bombs, it's clearly very important. So the important metadata is on the list. Yes, sir.
Does it matter what version the SolidWorks model is?
Great question. So we support SolidWorks up to SolidWorks 2017 right now. We'll have support for 2018 coming sometime early next year. And for Inventor files, we support all the way up to 2018.2 right now. And, well, 2018 is the file format. And when 2018 is released for global launch, we'll have support for it already.
Anything prior?
Anything prior, of course. Any other questions from the back of the room?
It's so easy. When can I start using it?
Yes.
So I plan on introducing this to my company as a replacement for various other different applications,
Yeah.
one being ANSYS.
Okay.
Because we don't use the entire functionality of the ANSYS package. Would you guys be willing to give my company, my upper management, a demo on the simulation?
Of course.
Of course. So, and I'll just point out, we have Mike Smell in the room. He's the product manager responsible for all the sim tools. So we'll be happy to connect you with him. Awesome. Yes. Paul, do you have a question?
My question was, do you see file versioning for Inventor and SolidWorks parts in Windows Explorer or the Mac Finder?
Yes. So you see as a property that this is.
The question was,
So the question was, in the Mac Finder or the Windows Explorer integration, do you see the actual version information? So you do see what the version is at the current point. You don't get all the expanded version information like you see in the Fusion data panel or in Fusion Team. But what you can do is you can right-click the item, and there is a command there that takes you to the web interface of that part, the item overview, where you can see all the versions, who changed it, what the change was, etc. Right.
So one important thing, sorry.
If Fusion Connect is, if Fusion Desktop Connector is handling like a drive, how does it handle assembly?
Great question. So it has intelligence. I mean, it's okay. So the question. So the question was, how does Desktop Connector know what the file references are, and how does it handle assemblies? So it has a component built in that understands assembly structure, right? This is one of the key reasons why you would use Desktop Connector with our ecosystem, because unlike a generic cloud sync tool, which only understands files and it can move a lot of files back and forth, Desktop Connector understands your entire assembly reference structure, be they XREFs in AutoCAD, the assembly relationships in Inventor and SolidWorks, or Fusion. Those are the ones it supports today. And PowerMill. Thank you. Michael, by the way, is the chief architect, the UX architect for Desktop Connector. So, sorry, you had a question? So the question was, is there support for Revit families? And it's coming soon.
So I think the question, is it on the desktop side or is it on the AnyCAD side? So desktop side, but I think we got going with the Revit team that we could also do AnyCAD probably with the Revit family. So that Fusion and Revit could exchange models and understand changes happening in each other's products.
To answer that question?
Yeah.
Revit already is in Desktop Connector. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, any kind of thing is not.
Would be nice to have, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yes. So the inside Inventor CAD tool, right, you have the plugin where you can go directly to your Fusion team, right, to do the uploads. Is there plans to build those plugins for SolidWorks, CATIA, any other?
Yeah, so the really nice thing here is it's not really a plugin for Inventor. It's a plugin for Windows Explorer. So any product that you have on your desktop, be it Notepad, SolidWorks, Inventor, AutoCAD, its file open menu and its file save menu automatically sees the cloud integration once the Desktop Connector is installed. So you're able to open and save files from any product once you have it. That was actually one of the reasons we started out building this technology, because before we used to build add-ins for every single product out there, right? And it becomes a real nightmare to manage all the different versions of products. Building an OS extension makes it really easy to support everybody on a level playing field.
So to answer your question, just like what you said just now, this is File Explorer, Windows Explorer. And you can see that there is a virtual drive here, and it is integrated right into the operating system. And this is the shell extension that Microsoft published. You can see the hubs here. We were using the feature bot, and you can see our data sets that we collaborated doing this time.
Thanks. Yes?
So, related to Desktop Connector, and Michael, you might know, when we'll be able to see our personal hubs on there? I don't think that's not available right now.
Okay, the question was the Desktop Connector, when might we see personal hubs? I think the answer is never. So the reason we are starting to introduce these workflows like Fusion Team, creation points showing up directly in Fusion is because we're planning on moving everybody over to team, right? So if you have a Fusion entitlement, you have a Fusion team entitlement. So if you have a group of 10 people in the company, all 10 of your users are entitled to use Fusion team together. So because we see more and more of our user base working together rather than individually, we want everybody moving to team. That's why you see a lot of functionality like this. We showed cross-project extras a little bit. We're showing desktop connector. We're showing AnyCAD. All of this is going to team hubs because that's the future direction. So one of the other things, because you asked the question, I'll talk about is today the desktop, the Team Hub creation access point that I showed earlier, what it'll allow you to do is create a new Team Hub and you'll be able to create new projects there. One of the other updates that we're working on right now, it'll be coming sometime early next year, is there'll be a proper visitor interface in Fusion. So as you see your projects that live in personal hubs today, when you create a team environment, it'll prompt you, hey, all of these things that you're actually collaborating with people on, it's better for you in team, and it'll give you a visitor interface to guide you to actually migrate those projects over to team. And that's how they show up in Desktop Connector at that point.
One thing I just wanted to impress upon is, since the data is in the center and in the cloud, all the collaborators are getting the notification instantaneously as soon as the change happens. So it's not something that you are waiting until the change shows up. It's instantaneous, and for live connections, you will see the change. Just like Bryce saw that update from highlight. That's one thing. And the other thing is, once you do any CAD on any of the items, we remember this fact. And the cloud is working for you to understand that any new versions will be processed and kept ready for you so that you can consume it either in Inventor or in Fusion instantly.
I have a lot of solid edge customers. Are they going to see connectivity with that?
Okay. Great question. So the question was, how about solid edge customers? See, I'm learning. So we are working on support for solid edge right now. So we'll support native translation first, sometime early next year, and then we'll follow it up with AnyCAD support as well. I think Inventor, for example, this year is adding support for solid edge. So we'll be able to use the same tech stack to enable it in Fusion as well. Yes.
So Fusion team, when are we going to see folder level permission settings?
Okay, the question was, when do we see folder level permissions in Fusion team? It's very high on our backlog right now. It's one of the things we're intending to work on the first half of next year. So I'm not committing to any dates. I can tell you when we plan to work on it.
I have a very upset customer that needs them. We need to have a sidebar.
Sure. All right. Cool. You have your goodies? So, remember to take the survey. Bryce, do you have your goodies?
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you do the survey,
We'll give you chapstick.
you get Fusion
Everyone's
Chapstick.
dry. Remember the chapstick. Remember the chapstick when you're doing the survey. All Fusion branded. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
We need some.